So the Detroit Lions decided to make lots of roster moves and lots of UDFA signings this draft. Specifically for the Detroit Lions, they went ahead. We'll start off with the transactions in terms of releases and stuff they've made since. The first move they made was they released waived wide receiver Antoine Green. He did pass through waivers and he did not get picked up. He is still currently a free agent. Antoine Green, former seventh round pick by the Detroit Lions, just did not work out. It was crazy to me how Lions fans had Antoine Green as their wide receiver 3 last year because keep in mind, before we got Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, and free agency after the preseason, we really did not have a wide receiver 3. Antoine Green slash Darius Fountain, both whom are not on the team or on an NFL roster right now, was considered wide receiver 3, so we were in a really bad position at that current time. Um, but we go ahead and waive Antoine Green. It sucks. I really did like the Antoine Green draft pick when it was made. It was the second pick in the seventh round when we took Antoine Green. It really did suck. He had a horrible head injury in the preseason last year. I believe week 1 of the preseason against the Giants last year. Had a horrible head injury. It was so bad he was actually waived and then reverted to IR for the rest of the season, so he couldn't play this upcoming season this past year. Um, and now they go ahead and waive him, and it was actually didn't say on here, but Aaron Wilson then right after this said Lions released wide receiver Antoine Green with failed physical, which means possibly his head was still not there, or he just didn't pass his physical. I don't know, but Antoine Green, hope the best for you, man, but it's unfortunate, but there really wasn't going to be a spot for him on this team anyway this upcoming season. You draft Dominic Love in the 7th round. You picked up Jacobe James and Jackson Meeks in UDFA free agency, who were both very good UDFA wide receivers, both who could have been drafted. Um, Tom Kennedy, old Mr. Reliable. So there was just really no way he was going to make the team this upcoming season unless it was practice squad, and that was even potentially up in the air. So Antoine Green sucks. Hope the best for you, but that was that move. And then the Lions also went ahead and decided to make a couple more roster moves. Let's see here. This one was the most recent one, I think. No, it was this one. By so they signed UDFA tight end Luke Deal, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. They signed veteran wide receiver Malik Taylor and veteran defensive tackle Rayquan Williams. They also had to make a release. Ahmed Hassanian, who the Lions drafted in the 6th round, does not count apparently towards the 90-man roster. He will against the 53-man if he makes it, which he 100% will. If he end up getting cut and only makes the practice squad, he will not count against the practice squad, and he does not count against the 90-man roster. So the only way he counts against the roster for the Lions is if he makes the 53-man, which he will. But if for whatever reason he was to be put on the practice squad, he would not count against the 16-man practice squad. And right now on the 90-man roster, he does not count. But so the Lions already had one roster spot open by releasing Antoine Green. So that roster spot was filled by Rayquan Williams. They got another roster spot by Ahmed Hassanian. And by signing Rayquan Williams, they had to release another player, and that was waiving UDFA tight end Caden Prescorn, who really sucks. He was my favorite UDFA pickup, arguably my favorite UDFA pickup out of anybody. It was either him or Jackson Meeks. Was in my opinion the best UDFA pickup. I don't understand that release because the Lions also decided to guarantee $60,000 of his rookie contract, which is a lot for a UDFA player. So I don't know why they did that. Maybe it was a failed physical and it just hasn't came out or something like that. I don't know, or maybe just didn't want to be a Lion or something. I don't know. I don't understand why they released him. I thought he was a fantastic pickup. Then our tight end 3-room competition would be set between Zylstra, Yaboa, and Prescorn. But he's no longer a Detroit Lion, so we will not obviously be talking about Prescorn today now. He is very productive at Ole Miss. I'll just go over some quick things here. He's very productive at Ole Miss. Big body tight end. He's like 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", almost 260 pounds. He's huge. Not great, not the best at running routes, but since he's so big, he can haul in unbelievable catches, some that are over his head a lot of the time. Um, Not a great blocker even for his size, but great special teamer. So I don't know when the Lions released him. Very productive at Ole Miss. Like I said, he had like 400, 500, I think even 600, 700 yards one year. at Ole Miss. Very productive tight end. Don't know when the Lions released him. The only reason why I can think of is because, again, something happened, failed physical or something like that, because the guy was just so productive. Something that also was not the reason why he was ended up as UDFA is because he's super old. He's 25, will be turning 26 when the season starts, which is insanely old for a prospect. But he definitely, if he was like 22, 23, definitely would have been probably a mid day three pick, like a sixth, possibly even a fifth round pick, but probably a sixth or a seventh round pick. I'm pretty sure I had an early seventh round grade on Caden pre-scoring, so it kind of sucks that we released him, but that was that. We'll be talking about Malik Taylor and Rayquan Williams here in a minute, but let's go over the final roster moves that the Lions have made since I'm recording this video, and that's that they have signed UDFA defensive end Keith Cooper, who was originally reported as been signed to UDFA. Then the Lions said, no, we did not sign him. He was a rookie minicamp tryout. He did very well, apparently, according to Lions insiders, at the Lions tryouts. And he did end up signing with us. Talking about him in a little bit. And they ended up waiving UDFA offensive center Leif Fautanu, who I'm honestly not sure. He might be Troy Fautanu, the Steelers tackle, I believe, in the 2023 first round. The first round of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Steelers took Troy Fautanu. I don't know if Leif Fautanu is the brother of Troy Fautanu. I tried to research Leif Fautanu and stuff like that. Leif Fautanu just did not have any profiles, any stats, anything out there. He's from Arizona State. He really just did not have anything out there of information besides just the fact of where he played and stuff like that. He really doesn't have any information, so I couldn't find any information if he was related to Troy Fautanu or not. When we signed him, I thought that was pretty cool because I was assuming he would be related. But could not find any information. Again, good luck to Leif Fautanu. Didn't know anything about the guy, so I don't really hate this move at all. I don't think anything of his money was guaranteed, so don't hate this move at all. I would definitely take Keith Cooper or Leif Fautanu, but we'll just go after that in a little bit. But that was the final roster move the Lions had made. So they already had signed 2 UDFAs and they released 2 UDFAs. So they signed, I believe, 12 or 13 UDFAs and releasing 2 of them already. So there's that for the Lions. Now let's talk about their UDFAs that they have signed this draft. Let me pull this up here, make this a little bit bigger here. Okay, there we go. This is the Lions UDFA tracker. They have signed UDFA running back Anthony Taius from Ohio, of all places. They've also signed UDFA running back Kyle Roby from Boston College. Caden Prescorn, who had $60,000 guaranteed, plus a $15,000 signing bonus, who they did already end up releasing for whatever reason. Still can't figure that out, so disregard him. Tight end / fullback Zack Horton from Indiana. He's not listed as a fullback, but he did play fullback at Indiana. Jackson Meeks, wide receiver from Syracuse, who, matter of fact, is Zadarius Smith's nephew, so maybe they're trying to bring back Zadarius Smith to Detroit. That'd be pretty awesome. Big, fat $200,000 guaranteed as well for Meeks, so I think there's a good chance, really good chance, he has the chance to even make the 53-man roster, but he will 100%, in my opinion, unless an injury pops up or he just sucks or something like that, will make the practice squad. He also could be very good. Big body receiver, I believe he's 6'2 or 6'3, like 215 pounds, 210 pounds, somewhere around there. Could also be a next wide receiver opposite Isaac TeSlaa in the future as well, potentially. They also brought in Jacobe James from UMass, who UMass was terrible this past season. I think they only won 2 or 3 games or something like that this past season. And they only had one UDFA player they only had one player get drafted or signed from UDFA free agency this past draft from UMass, and that was Jacobe James, who signed with the Lions. And I think they only had 1 or 2 other players that had a tryout that have still not been signed from UMass. So that's pretty impressive by Jacobe James. He was arguably their best player for UMass this past season. They also signed tackle / guard / even center Mason Miller from North Dakota State with $20,000 guaranteed with a $10,000 signing bonus. Pretty good chance he makes the practice squad. He can play all over the offensive line. Tyler Rowell, who the Lions brought in to be the new tight end coach, is from North Dakota State, so he knows that relationship. The Lions brought in Gray Zabel for a visit in the draft process. He ended up getting drafted before he even picked. But I think there would have been a good chance we would have picked him at pick 28 if he was sitting there. But the Lions also took another versatile offensive lineman from North Dakota State and Mason Miller, who also, like Gray Zabel, moves all over the offensive line, can pretty much play any position on the offensive line. Big body, big 6'7", but he can play all over the offensive line. Pretty sure he played guard this past year at North Dakota State, but has played tackle in the past at North Dakota State. This signing is very interesting for me. I believe he was the first UDFA signing for the Detroit Lions, first reported UDFA signing for the Detroit Lions as well. Lee Fatanu, again, we already talked about him. Disregard him. He's already been released by the Lions. Keith Cooper, again, has been signed from Houston. The Lions also signed cornerback Gavin Holmes from Texas. That could be an interesting one. And they also signed UDFA safety Ian Kennley from Grand Valley State. They also brought in Cole Snyder for rookie minicamp tryout, who has not been signed yet. And they also brought in a lot more players, a lot of more veteran players from rookie minicamp that we will talk about, I believe, in a future video. But that is the Detroit Lions UDFA signings. We're going to go over their stats and everything here real quick. We're not going to really talk about them because I haven't really watched a lot of these guys film at all. It's going to take me a while to watch these guys film because it's a lot of them, and I really just don't care about like offensive line because like Mason Miller probably won't make the 53-man roster. Anthony Taius, Roby probably won't make it either. So like I don't have a lot of motivation to watch those guys. I definitely will and probably will watch a lot of film of them. Just might take me a minute. But we'll go over their stats just because most of them have stats out there. Anthony Taius, 6'1", 226, pretty good size for a running back. Really good size actually. I believe he is actually a Lions. There's something about him that like he really likes about the Lions. I'm pretty sure. His first year, I believe this is from. I forget where that's from. He had 210 yards, 4.2 yards to carry, 1 touchdown. His second year was horrible, but he only had 19 carries, 56 yards, 2.9 yards to carry, 0 touchdowns. 2023, 50 carries, 238 yards, 4.8 yards to carry, 1 touchdown. Then he transferred to Ohio, where he had 237 carries, 1,215 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. So he's very productive after transferring to Ohio. So this is an interesting pickup by the Lions. Really not productive or had a lot of carries at NU before he transferred to Ohio. So this is a very good, decent pickup for the Lions. It could be a sneaky, possibly practice squad running back, and potentially even could stick up on the 53-man roster as running back 5 if he does very well in preseason. But I highly doubt that. But he could be an interesting practice squad running back potentially. The Lions again also brought in Roby, who's also a bigger back, 6 foot 217. More productive. He actually was considered potentially a good UDFA running back, or even potentially a 7th round pick for some prospects, or for some draft grades for some people. So, but his first year at Western Kentucky, 67 carries, 332 yards, 5 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. His second year, 73 carries, 496 yards, 6.8 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. 2023, transferred to Boston College, 163 carries, 780 yards, 4.8 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns. And then Boston College in 2024, 175 carries, 744 yards, 4.3 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns. And the guy is also a pretty good receiving back, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't have a lot of production, actually, but there is his receiving stats. 7 for 142 and 1 touchdown his first year. 13 for 74 his second year. 15 receptions, 108 yards his third year. 9 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown his final year. So there's Roby for you. Decent production. He could also be a guy I just feel like Anthony Taius to sneak up on the 53-man roster, let alone practice squad. The Lions also brought in, like I said, tight end / fullback Zack Horton from Indiana. 6'4", 252. His first year at James Madison, I believe this is. 13 receptions, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. In 2023, 27 receptions, 275 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2024, transferred to Indiana, where he had 21 receptions, 189 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He played fullback in Indiana, but also tight end. This is probably going to be a fullback for the Detroit Lions. And fullbacks, they're so hard to predict. They could get cut before even the preseason begins, but they could also be a guy who plays a lot during the preseason and does pretty good, where he actually makes the Lions 53-man roster. No really any draft projections for this player, but this is an interesting pickup for the Lions. But again, he could be like a Parker Hess of last season for the Detroit Lions, where he's more known as a tight end, but will most likely play fullback for the Lions. but can play both positions. So this is an interesting pickup for the Lions. Reminds me a lot, like I said, of Parker Hess from last season when the Lions signed him after the draft. And they also brought in, like I said, Jackson Meeks, the Lions this year. This is my favorite UDFA pickup, especially that Caden Prescore is no longer in the team. Not just because this is Darius Smith's nephew. He's a big body receiver, 6'2", 210, 22 years old on the younger side, from Syracuse, just turned 22. He's one of our youngest players from this draft. Not very productive his first 3 years at all. 3 receptions, 44 yards from Georgia. What do you know? Another player from Georgia. 6 receptions, 65 yards the second year. And his final year at Georgia, only 1 reception for 23 yards. And he transferred to Syracuse, where he absolutely balled out. 78 receptions, 1,021 yards, and 7 touchdowns. This is a player that I think legitimately has a chance to make the 53-man roster and be an asset in future years after the 2025 season once guys like Tim Patrick, Khalif Raymond are gone, potentially even J-Mo, after he's potentially gone in 2 years. So Jackson Meeks, this is a very, very interesting pickup for the Lions, a very fun pickup, not just because it's Darius Smith's nephew. Hopefully this lures Darius Smith back. I mean, it's another chance to really earn back besides his girlfriend, Cash Doll, being from Detroit. Um, so, but, oh, please, Darius, please. But Jackson Meeks, love this pickup. Have actually watched a little bit of film from Jackson Meeks. Big body receiver will go up and get a football. So I really like this pickup a lot. Again, still got to watch more film. Doesn't really have any film from his first 3 years. A lot of film from his last year. And it was very, very good his last year. Some people did have him going. He did not have a draft profile on NFL Network, but he did have some draft projections from some analysts. Hey, him potentially going in the 7th round. So this is also a good pickup of the Lions. Just going in the 7th round because he's only had 1 productive year. If he had that production for every single year, he probably would have been a 2nd, 3rd round pick. Like, that's how good he was this past season at Syracuse. Now looking at Jacobe James. Jacobe James looks like he only played 2 years in college. He's a kind of big body receiver, not really though. 6'1", 197 from UMass, like I said. First year I don't know what this is. Hold on, let me see what this is. Eastern Washington. Well, I haven't heard that name in a long time, in a really, really long time. Man, I don't think there's the only place I don't even know the last player that I've seen been from there. It's been so long I've heard that name. Wow. But from Eastern Washington, his first year had 8 receptions, 146 yards, no touchdowns, and he transferred to UMass in 2024, where again he was one of their best players. Even though his production might not seem super high, he was one of their best players from UMass this past season because UMass was so bad. I'm pretty sure they were one of the worst teams in college football this past season. He had 50 receptions, 839 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I also believe they had one of the worst quarterbacks this past season. He put up pretty good numbers. So this guy, you watch this film from this past year, UMass was really, really good. This guy's also, I think, a dark horse candidate to make the 53-man roster, and 100%, in my opinion, will make the practice squad. Same with Jackson Meeks. The Lions are going to have a really, really good receiving quiz. Man, there's a legitimate chance that you have St. Brown's your 1, J-Mo is your 2, Patrick is your 3, Tesla is your 4, Raymond is your 5, Lovett is your 6. And then on the practice squad, you have Jacobe James, Jackson Meeks, and Ronnie Bell. There is a legitimate chance that your wide receiver core could look something like that. That's a fantastic wide receiver core for the Detroit Lions if that ends up being the case. Really like this pickup a lot. And then they ended up signing Keith Cooper from Houston. He used to be from Tulane. Big body defensive end. Can move into the interior, but more of a defensive end. 6'5", 280. I believe he's like 272 at his pro day, somewhere around there. His first year at Tulane. Loved Tulane. Had 1 pass breakup, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. His second year at Tulane, 2 pass breakups, 3.5 sacks. His third year at Tulane, 2 pass breakups, 5 sacks. And then 2024, 2 pass breakups, and 3.5 sacks when he transferred to Houston. So this is an interesting pickup for the Lions. I did watch quite a bit of this film just because he was a defensive end. Really didn't like it. Not very explosive at all. It's a good run defender, but not really explosive. His production might seem decent from being from a small school and only playing 1 year at a bigger school. But he doesn't have a lot of explosiveness, but he did have a very good tryout apparently with the Lions, which is the reason why they ended up signing him. They clearly see something in him. But this could, I think he has a really good chance to make the 53-man roster just because the Lions don't have depth at all at the defensive end position. Um, but yeah, this is a good pickup by the Lions, I think, and could be interesting. This guy has a chance to be a really good dark cast candidate, make the 53-man roster, but also suck and not even make the team. So interesting pickup for the Lions. We wrap this video up because it's over 20 minutes already. The Lions also brought in Gavin Holmes from Texas. Gavin Holmes went to Wake Forest his first year, had 1 pick, no passes defensed. It's 2021, 4 passes defensed, 1 forced fumble, 1 pick. Final year at Wake Forest had 9 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, no picks. 2023 had 2 transferred to Texas, had 2 pass breakups, nothing else after that. 2024, 3 pass breakups and no other stats. So he didn't really play a whole lot at Texas, but did play quite a bit at Wake Forest and was pretty good for Wake Forest. Haven't watched any of this guy's film yet. Probably will soon here, but that is Gavin Holmes for you. Probably going to be a practice squad cornerback at best. I would be shocked if he made the 53-man roster upcoming season. And then we'll look at Ian Kennelly. Ian Kennelly did not have any stats on ESPN's website yet, so I have to go off of this Flow Football website. Doesn't give me any previous stats, just this past season stats, but we'll go ahead and take a look at it. This past season, Ian Kennelly, 64 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 picks, 6 pass breakups. I'm pretty sure I read something where he had 8 picks in his 3-year college career, which is pretty good. 6 pass breakups this past season for Ian Kennelly. So this is an interesting pickup also for the Lions. Probably not going to make the 53-man rush, but he also apparently the Lions really, really liked him. So that he could also be a dark horse candidate to make the 53-man roster. Could be like a Lawrence Strickland from last season, but most likely a practice squad body to me. And like I said, the Lions also decided to bring in their final UDFA player so far that has been announced, and tight end / fullback as well. More of a tight end than a fullback, but also can play the fullback position. Luke Deal. Luke Deal, 6'5", 259, not very productive at all from Auburn. Spent 4 years there. 2 receptions, 11 yards his first year. 9 receptions, 65 yards, 1 touchdown his second year. 3 receptions, 34 yards his third year. His final year, Auburn, only 3 receptions for 6 yards. Did have 1 touchdown. It's not very productive. Does play the fullback position, but more of a tight end. I'm pretty sure he plays the fullback position. Don't quote me on that. But more of a tight end. I don't really know. This could be like a Brock Wright. Brock Wright was extremely not productive in college, and look what he is now. I mean, his productivity in terms of stats might not be insane, but he's one of the best backup tight ends in the NFL, in my opinion. So maybe Luke Deal can turn into Brock Wright. I don't know. But Luke Deal, welcome to Detroit again. I haven't watched any film on him. Don't know much about him at all. But not very productive, to say the least, in college. Now we'll go over these 2 veteran signings that the Lions have made, and then we'll wrap this video up. No, nobody's going to watch it to this point. But if you have watched it to this point, leave something in the comments that you've left to this point. Let Brad Holmes cook if you've made it to this point. Because we'll see if he's cooking or not from what he's done this draft. Blake Taylor, the Lions signed from after a tryout at rookie minicamp. He spent time with the Jets and Packers. I knew who he was when we signed him. I knew him from the Packers. But this is probably going to practice squad body at best. 6'1", 220, bigger body receiver, especially when he's 220 pounds. That's bigger than Isaac Tesla. 29 years old, will be turning 30 towards the end of the season. Big older receiver, 2 receptions for 13 yards in 2023. Did not play this past season. Played 15 games his rookie year in 2020 with the Packers, 5 receptions and 66 yards and 1 touchdown. 2021 with the Packers, 10 games played, 2 receptions, 14 yards. And then 2023, he did not play in 2022. 2023 played 3 games with the Jets, 2 receptions, 13 yards. In 2024, he also did not play. I'm pretty sure this guy had a phenomenal preseason 1 year. I think it was in 2023 with the Jets, had a phenomenal preseason. That's also another reason why I know this guy, because I'm pretty sure he was very productive at some point. I'm pretty sure it was in the preseason 1 year. So I'm pretty sure that's also another reason why I knew this guy. But Blake Taylor, probably just practice squad body at best, but does bring some more veteran leadership to that wide receiver room, as it pretty much for the most part is extremely young now, besides just guys like Tim Patrick and Khalif Raymond. So this adds more experience to that room. So Malik Taylor, welcome to Detroit. Don't mind the signing at all. And the final player the Lions brought in, defensive end / defensive tackle, more of a defensive tackle though, Rayquan Williams. He did have a draft projection coming out, I believe, in 2019, coming out of the draft, or 2020, one of those. Did have a draft projection on NFL Network. They had him as a 6th, 7th round grade defensive end / defensive tackle. From Michigan State, 6'4", 305, 28 years old, just turned 28 a couple months ago. From Michigan State, did not play in a long time. Played in 6 games with the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles. Had 1 sack. Played 1 game with the Eagles in 2021. Did nothing. And hasn't played since. Go ahead and take a look at his stats with MSU. Had 2 sacks his first year, 2.5 sacks his second, 2 sacks and a forced fumble his third year. And in his final year at Michigan State, he had 48 tackles, 5 sacks, and a forced fumble. So, yeah, he did come out of the 2019 NFL Draft. So that is Rayquan Williams for you. Welcome to Detroit again. This brings more veteran leadership to that defensive tackle room. Can play on the defensive end position, but more of a defensive tackle. But that is a very interesting pickup for the Detroit Lions. So that is the Detroit Lions UDFAs from the 2025 NFL Draft. We could do some breakdowns on some of these guys, potentially guys especially like Jackson Meeks, Jacobe James. Might do some offensive line film since they didn't really talk about a lot about Mason Miller. But there's that. Also went over the recent transactions for the Detroit Lions. So one pride go Lions. Very interesting UDFA class to run. So pretty more underwhelming, I feel like, than usually, but they also have a lot of players in this UDFA free agency who I feel like could be very sneaky pickups down in the future. But is it like a right now type situation? Don't really know that anybody can make a huge impact besides maybe Jackson Meeks, maybe Jacobe James, but that's how I feel. But one pride, go Lions. I give this UDFA class for the most part, I'm gonna give it a B-. Not horrible, not great. One pride, go Lions.